What's up, guys? Here are my predictions for UFC 227 happening this weekend, and looking at the card, it actually doesn't look like the best pay-per-view card. A lot of young fighters on here, a lot of potential prospects, especially for the Fight Pass and the prelims, as well as the strawweight fight and the main card. But we're going to start with Pedro Muoz versus Bret Johns really quick. Now, this fight should be really close. I think their styles are very similar. You got two BJJ artists, great submission artists, with some good boxing and good pressure. Now, the only thing is, Pedro Muoz, I believe, has better cardio. He has more experience, which is going to be a big thing coming into this one over Bret Johns. If it goes to the ground, they have a different kind of style. Pedro Muoz is a more controlling, slower paced BJJ artist, but he has a nasty guillotine. Whereas Bret Johns, he wants to explode with positions, get the position he wants for the submissions, and he is excellent getting the back. We saw him get a calf slicer. I mean, he will go for some risky things out there. And I just feel Pedro Muoz's slower pace, controlling, more fundamental BJJ approach is going to trump. And against Aljamain Sterling, what we saw from Bret Johns was he was able to get controlled a little bit from the wrestling and the pressure, right? And I think Muoz can do the same thing. And I think he has better stand-up than Aljamain Sterling overall. He just doesn't have that reach. But on the feet, Johns likes to explode and just put on a lot of pressure on the opponent. Pedro Muoz does a very similar thing, but he waits for his shots. He's a lot more methodical in every aspect of the game than Bret Johns. So my prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Pedro Muoz. I'm going to go with the experience. I think it's going to be a close fight, and I'm going to go by a decision. Then we go to Swanson versus Hinata. This is a very good fight. You got Swanson's a veteran, striker more than anything, doesn't really go for takedowns. He is good at scrambling off the bottom, pretty good takedown defense, but Moicano, I believe, is the more well-rounded fighter, and he could go for takedowns if he wants. But I do see this being a striking battle. Swanson throws from the bleachers, haymakers, and almost every punch he throws, he likes to set it up with the jab and measure it constantly with that jab, but he winds up. Some guys are able to time that. Ortega was able to time it a couple times. I think Moicano's a very, very technical striker, so he might be able to also time those haymakers, land from the outside, and also down the middle. And Swanson has some crazy kicks too, cartwheel kicks like you saw against Doo Ho Choi. I mean, he will throw some wild stuff out there. He's not the most technical guy. He tries to make the fight as chaotic as possible, because he thrives under that. Moicano also likes a heated battle going back and forth to the opponent like you saw against Brian Ortega. I mean, he was getting the better of Ortega for most of the fight on the feet until he shot in for that takedown and ultimately got submitted. I don't think he has to worry about that threat from Swanson. I actually think he's the better BJJ artist. And Moicano has excellent long straight punches, great jab, good jab to a right low kick, chopping down that leg. Now, it depends what stance Swanson's in, because he does switch stances constantly. But Moicano has every weapon in the book. Literally every single weapon he is amazing with. Not the most power. I don't think he'll be able to hurt Swanson, but my prediction for this fight, I'm going to go with Hinata Moicano. I think it can be dangerous if he doesn't time those haymakers, but I have a feeling he's going to keep that distance. This is probably the longest fighter Swanson's ever fought in his entire career. And it's going to give him some problems, especially with the jab, especially with the movement. Moicano's always in position to land shots. He's not getting out of his stance. And I think he's just going to constantly pick at Swanson for most of the fight, land leg kicks as well. Maybe threaten takedowns here and here, but just ultimately landing straight punches, keeping it basic and simple as much as he can. And I'm going to go by a decision. And then we go to Demetrious Johnson versus Henry Cejudo, the co-main event, the rematch. Demetrious Johnson, most technical fighter in the UFC. Fast, so fast. Everybody in this division is fast, but he hits another level. And he mixes up the game so well. He's not the best in each individual aspect of the game. I think Henry Cejudo is the better wrestler. We kind of saw that in the first fight. Just a little bit though. And he's not the best boxer. He does make boxing flaws that I've seen in many of his fights. He's not the best Thai fighter, even though he did finish Henry Cejudo with some nasty knees in the clinch. But he mixes it so well. He masks his mistakes with other arts. It's crazy to see. He has combinations going from boxing to Muay Thai to wrestling, back up to boxing. I mean, he does everything in a sequence. And his movement is fantastic. Always in position, never out of balance, really fast footwork, and it's constant as well as explosive. It's hard to get a hold of him unless he goes and attacks you, and I think that's what Henry Cejudo is going to wait for. Cejudo has developed this different kind of striking game. Now he fights more like a karate fighter on the feet, and he has some devastating power. He might be the hardest puncher or at least one of them in the entire division. Like you saw against Wilson Hayes. I mean, landing that straight right hand, that was one of the cleanest straight right hands I've ever seen in MMA, period. And he pressures heavy now. Now, he can pressure Demetrious Johnson, try to cut him off, but he's going to have to match that speed and match the patterns to do that. And that's going to be a tough thing. I don't know if he's going to be able to do that. But with that long stance, he could do a very similar to what Conor does. Walk down Johnson and just keep cutting him off on the cage. And try to find that right hand and try to close him into it. And he does have the wrestling as a backup like you saw in this Sergio Pettis fight. He has amazing double legs against the cage. Really good single legs, which I think are going to work more so on Demetrious Johnson, especially as DJ moves in and out, right? He moves in and out with a pretty wide stance too, leaving his leg open for the taking. But on top, Cejudo doesn't do a whole lot. He just controls position and just grinds it out. You know, he doesn't land big punches on top. He's not a submission guy. He has no submissions in his career. So on the ground, it's a tough one because DJ has amazing submissions, especially that armbar. That armbar is nasty. So my prediction for this fight, I do think it's a closer fight. I do see Cejudo giving DJ some problems. I really do. And potentially even catching him once or twice in the fight. But I see DJ going away with it. Probably by a late submission, I'll go. Maybe a 4th round submission. I don't think Cejudo's cardio may be able to go all 5 rounds. I could be wrong there. But he's never won 5 rounds before. And we all know DJ's cardio's one of the best. You know, he never gets tired. Doesn't even matter. 5 rounds. He can go another 5 after that. I see Cejudo slipping up later. I see DJ taking the fight as the rounds go by. Cejudo, I think, is going to have a very strong 1st and 2nd round. Or just the 1st round, just early in the fight. And I see DJ just picking him apart, calculating everything, downloading all the data, possibly even going for takedowns later on Cejudo. And the fight eventually getting to the ground. I see Johnson getting an armbar or rear naked choke on Cejudo. Then we go to the main event and by far the biggest fight in the entire card. TJ Dillashaw versus Cody Garbrandt 2. This fight is so even. I don't even think I can explain how even this fight is. I mean, in the first one, Cody knocks down TJ, almost knocks him out. And if only there was more time in the round, he could have finished that fight. TJ knocks down Cody twice in the 2nd round and had the time to finish Cody. First round was Cody's, 2nd round was TJ's, and it was almost equal in domination. Now that's close. When have you ever seen that in a high-profile fight? TJ Dillashaw is hitting strides. I mean, he's looking amazing. He has some of the best footwork in the UFC. He has the best switch game I have seen in the UFC. His ability to switch stances in mid-combo, switch stances to counter the opponent, switch stances to get away, to move in, close distance, create distance, move out on angles. He's able to double switch effectively, that is. No one does it better than TJ. Nobody. And it worked on Cody in the 2nd round, especially in that exchange. Notice what TJ did. He came in orthodox, switched off on the right angle into southpaw as he came in through the right hand, if I'm not mistaken, through the right hand, then the left, and then as he's in southpaw, he's throwing the right hook and Cody's in his orthodox stance. Cody's throwing his power hand from the far side. TJ's right hand is closer to Cody's chin just because of the stance and catches him through that. Best switch game in the game. He has awesome head kicks. His body kicks are a little weird. They kind of come up at an angle instead of just horizontal or parallel to the ground. He has a good jab, although it's not stinging, it's not a stiff jab. He keeps it out there. They keep the opponent honest, looks at what they're going to do, and he just measures everything behind that. He has good takedowns as well. He has that amazing hooks on the outside of the lead leg of the opponent, gets the double leg through that. He has good ground and pound on top, and he did come from Team Alpha Male. He does have that guillotine, but I think Cody's guillotine might even be better. We saw him almost get Dominic Cruz a couple times in it. And then with Cody Garbrandt, just amazing boxer, fast hands, good power, one of the most powerful punchers in this division. His right hand is the moneymaker though. That is the punch. And the fact that he gets so many people with just that right hand, usually it's an overhand right or even a right hook, it just tells you how good he is at timing it and how precise he is with it. He believes he's going to catch TJ with the right hand. He has a lot of confidence in it, and he doesn't set it up a whole lot. Sometimes he'll set it up off a jab, but it's usually he's just timing it naked, you know what I mean? And Cody also has pretty good leg kicks. He has good high kicks. And his movement is very basic, but is so efficient, where he's just moving in all different kind of angles, and he's only slightly off from the opponent for him to land his own right hand. And he does have pretty good takedowns. I don't see him taking down TJ. I actually don't see either of these guys taking the other down, unless they hurt the other. So my prediction for this fight, man, this is a tough one to call. I'm going to go with TJ Dillashaw. I think he has more tools to work with. I think he has more in his toolbox that he hasn't shown before. Cody's toolbox is not that large. He has a more limited amount of weapons against TJ, and TJ's so intelligent, right? His fight IQ is so high. It's going to be hard to catch him twice with the same thing. And I know Cody does have that good head movement, but then again, TJ's found how high kicks work on Cody. So TJ having the more weapons, having the bigger toolbox, having more to work with coming into the rematch, having this confidence. Cody has changed his mentality. I don't know how that's going to work into this one. And there is an interesting thing stemming from the Dominic Cruz fight. Actually, the interviews before the Dominic Cruz fight that Cruz actually mentioned. He mentioned that Cody Garbrandt fights better with emotion, with just chaos, with this anger. You know, he fights better under those circumstances. I don't know if he has that anymore. I mean, look at his interviews now. Very calm. It seems like he just wants to get this done and over with. Even when he talked to Luke Thomas even mentioned that Cody Garbrandt just is tired of this rivalry. He's not going to have that natural fire, that natural just anger or hate or whatever towards TJ, and that might hurt him in this one. And there are X factors that none of us know. Cody apparently went in the first fight not 100% at all. He was injured, he had back problems, he didn't have a full camp. He was getting shots weeks before the fight. So I don't know how much of a difference that's going to be in this one. TJ saying this is the best camp of his life too, so there's that as well. But I'm going to go with TJ Dillashaw. I'm going to go by a 4th round TKO. So those are my predictions, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you enjoyed my content, make sure to subscribe. In my next video, I'm going to break down one of the fights on this card, so be looking out for that. And also my MMA meeting snippets are going to come out a little later today. So if you guys just want the snippets, those are going to come out in the next several hours. So be looking out for those as well. And again, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.